Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the press conference of the opening show of Lakmé Fashion Week's Digital First Season Fluid Edition. Known and celebrated for always bringing to the fore the best of Indian fashion, it gives us immense pleasure to have kickstarted the five fashion with Manish Malhotra's fundraising opening show, Ruhaaniyat, a tribute to artisans. We have with us this evening Jaspreet Chandok, Head Lifestyle Businesses IMG Reliance, the man behind Lakme Fashion Week, and the master designer himself, Manish Malhotra. Thank you so much for joining us, Jaspreet, Manish. Um, I'd first like to congratulate Jaspreet for having kickstarted LFW's Digital First Edition at such a grand scale. Congratulations, Jaspreet. I think all of us here on the call would first want to know how has the experience been of taking one of India's biggest fashion events online?
From our end, you're congratulating me for, let's say, creating a big bang with Lakme Fashion Week opening, but really the only decision metric was to speak to Manish and get him on board, and the big bang would happen anyways. From our end, we've done a lot of firsts with Manish, the first virtual reality show. And I think when we were going digital only, there was really no other choice. I'm pretty sure Manish would have killed us if we had done it with someone else also. But he's been an integral part of Fashion Week for so long that if every time we try something new, our intent would be to reach out to him and see how we can make it bigger, grander. And I think the fact that we had more relevant action also attached to it, which is raising funds for artisans, just makes and multiplies the action that we do as well. So we're glad to tie up with Manish, we're glad to tie up with Shabana ji, and the Mishma Foundation, and that's our intent as a industry body, that we can provide this platform for people from different let's say different parts of the country, our artisans as well, to have a voice. And I'm so glad that Manish also put their voices in the video. That just shows how we look at what the opening show meant to us. So we're very glad with what's transpired.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Manish, thank you again for joining us, and congratulations on yet another fantastic showcase for
So much. Thank you.
effortlessly transporting us to a world of grandeur like none other. To begin with, if you could tell us all, how does it really feel to be back at Lakme Fashion Week in this all new avatar?
So I was saying that when the lockdown started, we were also unsure what life has, what's going to happen, and what life has in store for all of us. And we did communicate with each other, Jaspreet, Nikita, and me, and we were like, what are we going to do with Fashion Week? When is it all going to start? There was a kind of, there was a whole, we just didn't know what's going to happen, right? So now that we are all here and we're actually doing a first virtual press conference, it feels really good. But I think for me, I have really enjoyed putting fashion films together, and it's something that I've started this year, and it's just been an overwhelming experience for me because I put two aspects together, which one is fashion and clothes, and the second is movies and films. So for me, both of them have been such an integral part of my life and my work journey that somewhere they satisfy both the urges in me. And so for me, it's been a phenomenal and a very overwhelming experience.
Tell us a little bit about Ruhaniyat and the inspiration behind the collection. What really went behind bringing this presentation to life virtually for Lakme Fashion Week?
Well, this was a collection I started about early 2019, and I just felt that this is going to be 15 years to my label and 30 years to my work in the movies. And I wanted to do something that I've not really done before. So I kind of traveled to Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Udaipur, Delhi. We went to Doha because the museums there have a lot of Mughal clothes, jewelry, and a lot of work of the artisans as well. And I said, I want to put up a collection. I started picking up a lot of original antique pieces, from shawls to actual zari embroidered, pieces. And I thought that someday I want to make a big collection out of this. So we started work. I thought that maybe 2020 would be the right time, or 2021. But I think once I came out of the lockdown, were ready, and I was like, no. I think for all of us, we've got to now celebrate. While of course the entire requirement is much lesser, but it's also a time for us to celebrate artisans, craft, older craft. Because I feel people will come and go, right? But tradition, culture, artisans, craftsmen, all their work will always stay. So I said this was a good time to celebrate. This collection is not about sale. I don't even know how many clothes out of this I will actually put out to be, to selling them, because of course some of the original pieces. But I just thought that when I was getting down to making couture fashion films, this would be a very good start to, and in lockdown, I kind of went back to my passion, which is also music. I love music. I love Sufi music. I love Indian music. I love Punjabi music. So I kind of heard a lot of interesting singers, and I thought to myself, I want to incorporate some very unusual voices, some very interesting talent all over the world, and bring it all together. And that's what these films are all about: bringing talent, bringing clothes, bringing work from artisans, mixing it with contemporary glamour, it in my own way. So for me, the models became characters. It was about me and them, and putting it all out there. So it's been an absolutely overwhelming experience. And the fact that it's the opening show at Lakmé Fashion Week, which is home ground for me, and I feel at home. And for the fact that we've managed this, we've shot it with our COVID test, and wearing our mask and shooting together. It took us time, it took extra time, but we were very, very particular, and we were showing all the COVID instructions and following it. And there was a slight scare, but there was also a slight of like, we are actually doing this. So there was that whole feeling of wow, that we are doing this, and that's what it is. So it's made with complete love. These films are not about sale of clothes. These are not collections that are necessarily going to go out there, but I just wanted to actually celebrate all of it, that are coming together after these lockdowns, like holding court and holding that strength with the entire unit, shooting these clothes together, shooting these films together, and just putting out that whole positive vibe out.
I think the film really showed that and a lot more to all of us. Manish, if you could also elaborate a little bit on your relationship with the Mishma Foundation and celebrating the artisans through this fundraising showcase.
So about 10 years ago, Shamanaji, I've been a huge fan of hers and also an admirer of her personality. And 10 years ago, she said, let's do a show together. Which can you help me put the whole show together? And I said, we actually approached all the design schools and we gave them a theme of chicken curry. And I put all the clothes together, styled it. A lot of film stars worked for that show. That was almost 11 years ago, actually. And that's when I decided that, I want to work with Mishra. And that time, there were about 30 women. And I took over the NGO, and now we have more than 400 women. It's been a very overwhelming journey, because the fabric we sent, the designs we sent, the threads we sent, they embroider it. Then it's dyed again in terms of different colors. Then we add a little more of our kind of embroidery. We, shoot the pieces. They've gone to weddings. They've gone to photo shoots. Film stars have worn them on the ramp. Models have worn them. So there's such an overwhelming experience for them as well when they see the clothes out there. They all today have work. They all today, like just now when they were talking about masks, I kind of ordered 200 masks, bought them over. So I try my best to kind of help out and reach out as much. And now we're starting Manish Malhotra Home, and that embroideries have also started over there. So we kind of see to that the girls have constant work, and they kind of feel a sense of empowerment. They feel so good that they are earning. It's not just about like a charity or anything like that. No, it's about actually empowering them to feel good, to feel equal, to feel, when they're at home and they're working. So it's been a it's been a really heart-wrenching experience, and I definitely want it to grow more and more, and that's what we keep working towards.
I think nurturing somebody and making them independent, there can't be anything as a bigger gift than
And
that.
I want to really say that it's amazing that Fashion Week today is starting with something like that. Not only are we talking about work of the artisans and everybody, we are also speaking about charity. We're pledging to people. We're getting a focus on that, and platforms like Fashion Week, which are very fashion centric, and all the balls on them are about fashion and clothes. It's important to put out these messages in platforms like these, where we say that, hey, listen, but contribute to these women, and contribute to the artisans.
Bringing the spotlight on them.
Yes.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Jaspreet, as well. I'm now going to open the floor to questions. I'd request all attendees here to submit your questions in the Q&A box below, or you can request access to speak to either of the two gentlemen we have with us. Basis the requests, we'll take it from there then. Right, so we have the first question from Seema Dhawan. Manish, it's for you. Seema says, she wants you to elaborate a little bit more specifically on the collection and about the design aesthetics. And Hina from New Indian Express also has a similar question for you.
So a lot of the work that you saw is a lot of real zari. It's things that we kind of got, and then we recreated them. And this is the collection that's, I think, taken more than a year and almost 2 years actually, because we started very early 2019. And if you saw all the gararas that they were, those are created for the collection. A lot of the chogas that you saw, those were all old work embroidery, which happened in Jaipur, happened in Delhi. And we did them in various places, put it all together. A lot of the borders that you saw were all real zari. I wanted to take you to a world of Awadhi influence. The films like Shatranj Ki Khiladi and all those kind of films have had a huge Mughal-e-Azam, have had a huge impact on me, and a huge, I would say, influence on me. But there are lots of times when you kind of get into a world which kind of works for you, right? So for me, the glamour, the sequence, the bling has worked all these years. I wanted to step out of that comfort zone and do a collection which probably is not what people expect out of me. It's not something that people, look at me for. But I wanted to do that, challenge myself on this, and take that step out of that zone and venture into something that I haven't in all these years. And there couldn't have been a better time, like of 15 years of the label. And I want to venture into that, and of course do it my way, which is always a lot more opulent, and there's a lot more happiness in it, and there's a lot more positivity in it, and there's a lot more, I would say, exuberance in it. And that's what I've done actually. And there's a lot of boldness in it. There's a lot of strong imagery in terms of, where the models are looking straight on. It's not about that the girls are always feeling shy or any such thing. There's a whole assurance, and there's a whole confidence of what they're wearing. Speaking of that, it's how it's timeless, and how these are pieces that can always be passed on for generations. And the thought came from a feeling that people will not last out. Generations will move, right? We speak about Mughal period, Persian period, Awadhi period, all those various periods. Those artists have gone away, but the clothes, their workmanship is all yet there. So I feel craft will last out a lot more than people. So that is what the whole thought is. But of course, the presentation is in a very exuberant manner, which is an impactful manner to in the film.
Thanks, Manish. The next question is, how did you manage to mobilize the craftsmen in the restrictions of lockdown?
So, well, should I say luckily, because this collection was, as I said, started very early, Jan 2019. So a lot of the pieces were ready. So I thought that should I come out with this collection in 2020, 2021? But when I came out of the lockdowns, and I was the first designer to open my store in Delhi, once we were allowed to open stores, and started work in Bombay. Again, so I thought to myself, why not just present this collection? Why wait for 2021? Why not we celebrate it? That's the thought I came from. So a lot of it was already made before. we went into the lockdown. Yeah. And then when we came back, we kind of, a lot of the Garara pieces that you saw in the mustard and the blue, all those were done as soon as we came back. The salwar. So if you saw that kurta with the salwar, so I wanted to mix the whole Punjab experience with Awadh, mixing two different inspirational regions. That's how. So if you saw the shorter salwar, I wanted to introduce the shorter salwar, the farshi, there's a farshi, there's a izar, which is the palazzo kind of pant izar. Then there is a salwar. So I wanted to introduce a lot of different styles as well, which is what then I recreated once we started working. It took a lot more time because we are not working to full capacity, but we did it. Yes.
Um, the next one is, are fashion films the future of fashion shows in India? And do you see designers and consumers going back to older formats if and when there is that chance?
Well, I love fashion shows. I'm one designer who's done so many fashion shows. I absolutely love them. I start putting them together. Like I'm very fond of music. I love working with sound. The experience of 50, 60 models walking the ramp, the stage, it's another experience. Having said that, directing, conceiving, visualizing, making the models into characters, I've just loved it. I have to admit, I've just absolutely loved the experience. Like I think somewhere for me, it satisfied, like I mentioned earlier, two, loves of my life, films and clothes. So I've enjoyed this thoroughly. So for now, I've really, really enjoyed it. But I think that they both will coexist. You can't choose one over the other. But having said that, I think for me, this was you, the clothes and your characters. You made them sit the way, the kajal in their eyes, the tone that they're looking into, the stare, the glare. It was just you and them and the clothes and the film without any distraction. So for me, that just, I don't know, for me, it was almost like an emotional love experience. So I've really, really enjoyed it. But I mean, once fashion show starts, maybe I'll go back to that experience, but I don't think I'm ever going to leave fashion film. I think it's going to be a very, very important part of my narrative, for sure. I absolutely love it.
I think everybody, of course, were very surprised and happy to see how Karthik was portrayed in the film. Tell us about, arriving at him as a choice, as your muse.
Yeah, I think
And yeah.
there was another film that I made earlier last month, which had Janvi Kapoor. And here we had Karthik, because I felt that it's always interesting for me to take somebody that everybody has not seen in that mold, and present them. So I love Janvi's eyes. So in my earlier film, there was a lot of focus on eyes. I love eye contact. I even for people, I look into their eyes. I've never understood people who look down or look up or look away. I love honesty. I love direct contact. Tell me it. Tell me what you have to say, kind of a way. And I love Janvi's eyes and the whole thing of that walk and all of that. I felt, for Janvi, that was something she'd never done before. Likewise with Karthik. Because Karthik is a very, very good actor. I've always had tremendous faith in him as an actor. I met him about 4-5 years ago. His Pyar Ka Panchnama films had come, and I loved him in those films as well. So I wanted to present a young actor who's popular, who's talented, but never come in this avatar, So we spoke a couple of days ago, and he said, I have a stubble. I said, please grow your beard. He said, my hair is longer. I said, grow your hair. So I wanted to, in both their cases, make them this character, make them the world of Ruhaaniyat, and because then that is what you see it as a presentation. You see them as those characters. You don't see them just them as as actors. You also see them somewhere molding in the film.
And last two questions then that we have. Like you mentioned, you've been in the industry for 30 years, in the film industry, and in the fashion industry a little longer. So any early
So
memories?
the fashion industry for 15 years. My label is 15 years old.
Yes, in total, it comes
Yeah.
up to about 30, right? So
Yeah.
any early memories that you'd like to share with everyone here?
So As a child, I've absolutely been in love with films. I think I still am. Okay. Like a wide eyed child. I live with my mother, and I think she's 89 years old. I every day thank her for encouraging me to go ahead with my love. And she says from the age of 5, you would tell your tuition teacher you're not wearing something that's matching. So I was so fascinated with fabric and color. I learned painting, sketching. My diagrams became really very good. I started modeling. I worked in boutiques at that time, really got fascinated with clothes. And the late 80s didn't really see, they saw fashion dipping in films. And I wanted to come into movies and do something like introduce the look kind of, thing. When my work got really popular in films, if I was the first costume or designer stylist to start a label, I think that acceptance took time because a lot of my colleagues and a lot of the fashion industry looked at me as a stylist, as a costumer. I also kind of learned, that no, but there are collections, and I learned on the way. It was very tough because you end up working almost 18 hours a day because you're marrying the two, right? You're doing two parallel. Until date, I do movies and styling and costuming, and I also run the label. So it's been a lot of hard work. But I think when I look back, I smile at it because there are so many firsts that I've started in the film industry, right from film stars wearing the clothes to the front row to the showstopper, as they call it, to presenting your work. So I think there's always been a lot of first, and I think when you've come from not studied but come from a all heart, all passion, you're willing to take that chance. You're willing to take that risk. You don't mind failing and learning. You don't mind being critiqued and waking up the next morning and moving on. So it's been a very, very busy journey, and a very overwhelming journey. And I think each thing excites me. And now the new thing that's really exciting me are the fashion films. And so I would just say that I'm lucky to wake up every day and do something that I absolutely love.
That's a great learning for everyone here who's starting off. And the last question, Manish, that we have, it says that you did introduce your craftspeople and your association with Mishwan to this presentation. How else can designers leverage this digital fashion platform to show more and engage deeper with the audiences?
Well, it's of course everybody has their own narrative. As a designer, you're an artist of your collection, and you have your own ways of expressing what you want to express. So in our case, we were not only getting an emphasis on Mijwa, but in this collection, I'm also getting an emphasis of a lot of the work done by craftsmen earlier, which that to see all of that work, right, and to see a certain cultural exuberance that I don't think will leave us, and that's what I want to say. Ki, even if you've come out of the lockdown, but tradition, culture, luxury, opulence, exuberance, confidence, people looking into the eye, people celebrating themselves, people wearing their older jewelry, clothes will not go, guys. It's a part of us as well, you know. So we've got to celebrate that as well. So I think each designer should use the digital platform. When I say use, I mean in a very good way, in terms of a platform to express what they are feeling without fear. I mean, there was a thought, okay, what will people think that I'm showing such exuberance after all we've come? But I said, no, that's coming from my heart. I want to put that point out there. Okay, no, guys, this will also be there. It's a part of us, from our kings and queens and princes and princesses and our culture, our lovely artisans who've done such beautiful work. Even in terms of architecture, we cannot not celebrate it. We have to. So that came from my heart. And so I think that whatever somebody feels, they should, take on the platform and express it. Because I think today, when we come out of lockdown, we are hope to seeing a lot more different versions and different narratives and enjoying them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manish. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I'd like to thank everybody on this call. Thank you for joining us. This marks the beginning of the 5 days of fashion. And we can't wait for you all to see everything that we have in store for you. We'll see you here again very soon. Until then, thank you again and have a great night.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Manish.
Thank you, everybody.